Cabinet spokesman Minister Keheli Rabukan saying that Cameron should not basically deal with the matters of Sri Lankan interest, and that he should not come here to discuss war crime basically. And yesterday, so what I'm asking is, there a difference between your approach and the approach of the standard approach of the government of Sri Lanka?
Well, I can't answer for other individual comments that are made, but I would agree with the fundamental principle that Sri Lanka, having been 4 years post-conflict, this is a domestic situation, and there's no requirement whatsoever to internationalize a domestic process. I agree with that comment completely. I also agree that it is misplaced, as I said before, to have bilateral dialogue within a Commonwealth Heads of Government forum other than as a side session for bilateral purposes. Secondly, I agree that I agree with the point that this is not a place, Sri Lanka is not at that position where we need to in any way internationalize the post-conflict situation. We already have a comprehensive LLRC to address that, and there are other committees that have been subsequently appointed. I don't see a great dichotomy between what I say and what other people say, but I do feel that I do agree with the comment regarding the fact that there's no need to internationalize the process.
One more final question, Rajpal.
Yeah, Mr. High Commissioner, now you insist that the issue raised about taking Channel 4 to court is more or less irrelevant, but I think at least as a matter of detail, you said you're not an attorney at law, but I happen to be one. And as far as I'm concerned, the laws of libel came from Great Britain, and from what I know of the laws of libel in Britain, if you can't take a documentary maker for clear libel to court, there's something different between the law I know and the law that your advisors know. So it seems curious to me that they say that they cannot take this documentary to court on libel, and then also you sought to say that we should not place too much importance on what it entails, the documentary itself. But the Prime Minister of the country you're accredited to, the Prime Minister himself, said before he came here that the footage he saw was very disturbing, the last documentary. So we all know that Channel 4, all three documentaries, I wouldn't dignify it by calling it journalism, I just call it rubbish. But though we know that, he insists on saying that this footage is disturbing, and he bases all his interventions, or most of them, on that footage. So to me, can I ask you, one is that, and the second thing is, you talk about the diaspora, and you sought to say, I think to some extent, that we need to talk about the positives. But we may talk about the positives until the cows come home. We have done so. We have done so over the years since 2009, after the end of the war. But they insist, your country's Prime Minister, the country that you are accredited to, sorry, the Prime Minister insists on dwelling on the negatives. And the role he played here in Colombo, Sri Lanka, it's absolutely odious. He had the audacity to come here and give an ultimatum to the President of this country, saying that by March, if you don't have a committee to investigate war crimes, so-called, here, that he's going to take us to the UNHCR. And he came here, he went to Jaffna, he did all the petty politicking that he could so that he can get those votes that you were talking about. And you yet say that the diaspora, well, their activities are marginal to the central discourse and so on, but the impact that David Cameron and all of these people are making is enormous. And they will not stop, if I may say so, until they take the President of this country and the Defense Secretary to a War Crimes Tribunal. And that is a serious situation. And I ask you, what are we going to do about it? What are you going to do as High Commissioner about it?
Well, to respond, as I said, the government of Sri Lanka, we can argue till the cows come home about the legality of taking Channel 4 to court. That is not a decision made by the High Commission of London. That is a decision made by the government of Sri Lanka. Number one. That is a decision made by your government as well as my government. Right? It is not a decision made by the High Commission of Sri Lanka. Number one. Okay, that is made by your legal experts who are also my legal experts. So we're both in this. Number one. So we don't need to revisit that. That will continue to be looked at. You may have a different view, but that is for you to discuss with the legal experts of this country. Number one. Secondly, the discussion regarding the diaspora, I never said that the impact of what the diaspora do are marginal to the central discourse. I did not say that. What I said was that the diaspora, the vitriolic diatribe that we sometimes get from what you call the diaspora, is only emanates from a very small percentage of the diaspora. That is important. The rest of the diaspora are not very aggressive in this same manner, nor do they have such vitriolic diatribe that this small percentage do, and those are the ones that funded it. I think that is very difficult to change, because that depended very much on that simple thing, money. And it still continues to depend on that. And we need to understand that. The money that we spent on the conflict, on fighting, on the arms and fighting the conflict, we are now spending in Sri Lanka on development, on reconciliation, rehabilitation, reconstruction. What happened to the money that they were spending? Are they spending it on reconciliation, rehabilitation? No, because they don't need to. That is what you need to understand, that the money, even though it has dropped down substantially from what they used to raise, there's a substantial amount of funding, international terrorist financing, still going on. And it is this that is being thrown at opinion leaders. And we need to understand that. When they throw a substantial amount of funding to lobby groups, to legislators, to parliamentarians, to different people, that is where you have an issue. And we need to understand that it is not a matter of discussion and discourse. It is a matter of the fact that several $100 million was raised, particularly from the large countries which had a wealthy diaspora. We all know that. And a percentage of that is being used to continue the propaganda war. Now, until we understand that, we will always be questioning, well, why is this so? And I think it's important that we understand that we recognize it. And that is where I think the responsible media can also play a part. So that's the second point. The third point regarding Prime Minister Cameron, yes, I fully agree, as I've said before, that this is not a place to internationalize, that we are in no position whatsoever to have to accede to any form of internationalization of the investigation of Sri Lanka. I fully agree with that. I've said it already. But that does not stop an individual from quoting a particular TV station or a particular booklet. It is not quoted not only by Cameron, but by many other people. It's what we get all the time. But the point is, what I'm saying is, we need to also be on the offensive in terms of what progress has been made. We within Sri Lanka need also to be more focused, because we can certainly add to that narrative. We can add to the positive narrative. We don't need to always be defensive about a negative narrative. I think we can be far more proactive about a positive narrative of things going on in the country that is not in any way to detract from what people say. But if we always dwell and continue to dwell on that and wonder why, as if we're bemused in some manner, then I think that is not going to succeed. I think whilst we take these on, and no one is saying we should not take it on, of course we should take it on. And I agree perfectly that the point that the Prime Minister of England, if he did what is always useful for anyone, I think, for anyone, if they want to give or pass judgment on a particular country, I think it is important for them to come and achieve a balance. I think what is very important is whoever comes to the country, rather than simply visiting Colombo and visiting one area, like one particular conflicted area like the North, I think it is equally important before they seek to comment on the country, to appraise themselves by also visiting the East and visiting the South and meeting the indigenous Tamil, Muslim and Sinhalese people even of Colombo, because it is only then that they will realize that people have been living together here for so many years. It is only then that they will truly realize the demography of the country. That is, to a large extent, not known. And that is something people realize when they come here. But you see, my point is this. It is not to ignore the negative, but it is important to encourage people to see for themselves, rather than simply taking it from what they see as a voice of a particular person or a voice of a high commission. They all want to see it from their constituents also. It is important that we understand that. And I think that we have a role to play in that. But I do believe the enormous effort that has been made over the last few years to put up with the lobby groups, to combat the lobby groups behind the scenes, to bring parliamentarians here, to bring the press here, to bring heads of government here. That is what we should be doing, and that is what we are doing. And that is why today we have CHOGM in Sri Lanka. And I think we should be appreciative of that and move forward with that positive spirit. Yes, you hear people still being negative, but let me tell you, those voices, little by little, will die down. Time will tell. And the mere fact that CHOGM is here today is a demonstration of that. Thank you.
All right, I think we're going to have to head over to the other side for the other press conference. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you as well, High Commissioner. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.